1, 2, 1, 2. Here we go. Welcome to the Catalyst Podcast. It's raw, it's real, it's unedited. You can find Catalyst at Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. You can hear the podcast created through Spreaker on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeart, and Amazon. A Catalyst has the power to create change, and we hope that's what this podcast will do. Welcome to episode 18. All three of you. Thank you so much for those of you who do listen. We hope that you'll get something out of this. Again, we're going to, in 2024, have some guests, have some topics. If you would like to be a part of it, you can shoot me an email at catalystmotivation561@gmail. Catalyst Motivation, one word, 561@gmail. So, we're now into February. A new month and some new hope. We speak to Moffitt Cancer in Tampa. My oncologist's mentor suggested a process called CAR T cell infusion. And basically what they were going to do was going to take out my white blood cells, manipulate them to attack the cancer. One of the things they find out is there's a protein that prevents the white blood cells from approaching the cancer. It ignores it. And this process, which is usually done on those who are younger or teens, they're going to give this a try. My large cell B lymphoma was the good candidate for it. So in early February, I go to Tampa to take a whole boatload of scans and tests and blood work. And I'm in the MRI, I'm in the CAT scan, doing x-rays, I'm getting biopsies. We're going through the whole litany. And I meet the doctor, Dr. Jane, the exact opposite of Dr. Smuckler, where Dr. Smuckler is a South African. He's very gregarious and, outgoing, and he's a larger than life figure. Dr. Jane is very small in stature, very direct, very even. And, he was just telling me in no uncertain terms, okay, so this could be successful. For people your age, it's a 70% success rate. And, it works. If it doesn't, we'll see what other options we have, but we might come out of this cancer free and then it come back within a month or two. We're going to see, we're going to take it as it goes. And it was scary, but hopeful. I remember his assistant, she terrified me. She absolutely terrified me. But once we got approved for it, we had to get the insurance approved for it. And that was quite a challenge, especially because the company I was with decided to switch their insurance around. And the person who was the HR person didn't see it as a priority, whether my insurance was ready to go or not for my cancer procedure. And speaking of, that job became just a nightmare, just an absolute nightmare. It reminded me a lot of the radio station I worked at in Detroit. There's a core circle, and that core circle never changes, but everything around it changes. And they're constantly trying to understand and figure out why things don't change. Why do we have all this turnover? Why are all these things going wrong? Well, because maybe it's not the people you're hiring who leave or quit. Maybe it's the people who are still there all the time, who have to deal with their infighting and ridiculousness and ridiculous requests and, a madhouse. And if you didn't fit in, then you were out. So dealing with that, again, dealing with the stuff at home and trying to keep it all together. We did go to perform the procedure. It was going to take about 6 hours. And this was one of the few times that my wife at the time came with me. And let me say this about Moffitt. That place is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Everything, once one thing was done, then we fell into the other one. We fell into the other one. Then you had like a lunch period and then you went, it was such a well-oiled machine. Even she was impressed. So we did my scans and my blood work and we go to do the procedure. So on this table, one arm is a straight arm. My left arm was a straight needle pulling the blood out. I went into a centrifuge and removed my white blood cells. And then it put them back in. So I was kind of sitting, laying like a Jesus pose. My right arm is flexible. I can move that, but the left arm was not, which made it interesting when I had to go to the bathroom. But for 6 hours, I was like that. And after the 6 hours was done, they had 2 small little packets full of my white blood cells that they put in this box, this USPS box, and they were going to get shipped off to a location where they were going to manipulate them. And the best way to describe it was, excuse me, the best way to describe it, sorry about that, folks, raw, real, and unedited, there you go, sneezes and all. It was kind of like Avengers Endgame. And all Thanos' guys and all the Avenger guys got together and they were going to fight it out. Now, when I was going through my chemo and everything, I was told about some of the side effects, and they weren't as severe for me with that, even with the radiation. But for some reason, when it came to this CAR T, I was expecting the worst. I was expecting all these things to happen. And, it was going to be a battle. And I was being told that I was going to have to be in Tampa. I was going to be like 2.5 weeks in the hospital, and then another 3 to 3.5 weeks. It was going to be outpatient, so I needed to be near. So I was going to be in Tampa for almost a month and a half. So we started making plans at my office. I came up with the idea of like, hey, listen, during the hurricanes, what's the game plan? Because the COVID thing was kind of, everybody was still a joke for some people. But I was like, hey, if this turns into something, we might not be able to come to the office. We should be preparing for the hurricanes. So why don't we test something out? And we decided to have our team, our call center, work remotely. So we gave them computers and setups. We had IT go and help them set everything up. And then for the 2 weeks that was going to be when I left, it was going to be at least we're going to get them started up and running at least 2 weeks before I left, or a week before I left. We slowly had everybody go in and they were working from home. So a week before it's the last weeks of February, the first week of February and the last week of February and the first week of March is when we started to do this transition. And as we got into March, we had the good majority of the team set and ready to go. And we would test it out to see how it would work. And in the middle of March, I was to head to Moffitt. Now, during this, getting everything set up for this CAR T infusion, I was just trying to just be there by myself and deal with it. But they require somebody to be there. They require somebody to be with you. I didn't want that woman. I didn't want that person to be my wife at the time. So I was kind of holding it off. And then they eventually said, listen, we need a name or we're going to have to push this back. So there was only one person I could really, really think of when it came to something like this. Somebody who would know, somebody who would understand, somebody that I would trust. And that was my cousin, double amputee since the age of 6. One of the toughest son of a bitches I know. When I thought my life was tough, I would see his life and would kind of knock me into the right frame of thinking. So I called him and asked him, and he without hesitation says, when, where? And can you smoke pot? I don't know about the pot stuff, but I appreciate you wanting to come with me. So when I was in the hospital, he could stay with me. And then for the remainder of the time, we had gotten a residence in. So I'm working all that stuff out. They wanted me while I was the week of getting the white blood cells manipulated. I was going to be doing radiation locally in where I live. And so we did that. And then I was leaving that weekend, that Sunday, to start the whole process on a Monday. Now, while I was doing this, there was a couple of things that transpired where, and I told this to people, friends of mine, about being used as a prop. It happened with my mother-in-law or my dad's wife, when she used it for her own financial means, and it was being done by the person who was my wife. And we'll talk about that in the next episode. So I appreciate you all so much. Thank you so much for listening to the Catalyst podcast, raw, real, and unedited. You can find Catalyst at Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. You can hear the podcast created through Spreaker on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeart, and Amazon. Catalyst has the power to create change. We hope that's what this podcast will do. Please, if you're interested, send us an email. We'd love to find out what your catalyst is. It's catalystmotivation561@gmail.com. catalystmotivation561@gmail.com. We will see you on episode 19. Go be great.